Welcome to Born or Made, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of success and identity. Are the traits that define us as leaders ingrained from birth, or are they carved out throughout our experiences? Join your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, as we ask these questions to some of the most insightful and inspiring entrepreneurs of our time. Each episode, we explore their journeys, the decisions that shaped them, and how they've molded their own paths to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply curious about the interplay between nature and nurture in professional growth, you're in the right place. Get ready for compelling stories, transformative insights, and a new perspective on what it really takes to make it in the world of entrepreneurship.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. I am your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, and this episode is a little bit different because this is a solo episode. So here's the thing. I've had a lot of people ask me, how did I come to be where I'm at, building funnels, doing digital marketing? Because I've worn a lot of different costumes, for lack of a better word, throughout my life, and people know me as different things. And so I kind of want to address that question and how did I end up where I'm at today? So I'm going to go back, and I would love it if you would stick around for this journey because I don't tell it very often. In fact, I don't know that I've ever really talked about my journey in a public setting like this. So how did I end up building funnels and doing a podcast? Okay, so let's rewind. I am one of two siblings. I have a brother, and he has cerebral palsy. I am older than him. And so when we were kids, not to his fault at all, there were a lot of times that I felt sort of in the shadow, right? And of course, he had a handicap. I didn't. I could sort of fend for myself as best as a kid could, right? But so there were a lot of times that I felt sort of in the background. And so that was like my early life. And I think the biggest story that I could share with you to make you understand my journey would be, I remember we went to Disney, and my brother was about 6, I was 9. We went to Disney World, and because he was handicapped, we were able to get a special meet and greet with Mickey Mouse. And I was so excited. I mean, I was such a dork. I loved all that stuff, right? Like, I loved it. And so I was so excited that we were able to meet Mickey Mouse. So we got a special chance to meet Mickey Mouse in a private meet and greet, is what they called it. And so Mickey Mouse came out. I'll never forget. Like, I can remember this like it was yesterday. He came out, and I was so excited. But here's the thing. He just spent all of that, 15-minute meet and greet time, or however long it was, with my brother, right? Because my brother was handicapped and I wasn't. And so I remember feeling like in that moment, like, hey, I'm here, Mickey Mouse, please pay attention to me. But he didn't. He really didn't. He spent no time with me at all. I think maybe we got a group picture, but like, he really didn't spend any time with me. And it was kind of in that moment in my young brain that I said to myself, this isn't fair. Yeah, I know my brother has a shitty deck that he's been dealt, right? But I still want to meet Mickey Mouse, So like it was in that moment that I thought, hey, like this isn't this isn't cool. And so it wasn't until years later that I figured out, wait a second, I can I can change this. And so that's when I decided that I wanted to work at Disney and I wanted to be Mickey Mouse so that I could change that dynamic of what happened to me. So my mission was to get hired at Disney so that I could be Mickey Mouse and so that I could spend time with siblings of kids that were handicapped and that might have been going through what I was going through at that time. And so I did. I did. I auditioned. I got hired at Disney. I was Mickey and Minnie for many years, in meet and greets and in shows. And it was always I want to say mission, but it was always something I was very super conscious of whenever I would be doing a meet and greet as Mickey or Minnie, that I would make sure that if it was a handicapped child that I was meeting, of course I didn't give them any less attention, but I made it a point to give the sibling a little bit of extra because that sibling, just like I was, is probably often overlooked. And it's by no fault of anybody. It just happens, right? It just happens. And so that's sort of how my career began, is sort of in that mindset, right? And so I think it's not a surprise to say that because in my head as a kid, I lacked that attention, that I sought a performance career. That's what I wanted to do. And even though like I wasn't as talented as I wished I was, but I still went after this like performance career because I know now looking back that because I never got the spotlight as a kid, that now I could get it from being a performer. I could be the spot on in the spotlight, get the attention. And so that was what I pursued for so many years. And it worked out for me for a while because, I was, Mickey and Minnie and doing the characters. And then I went on to Sesame Street Live. And so I'm performing, but I'm behind like a full body costume. And for anyone that's wondering, no, we don't have fans in the costume. So I'm on stage, I'm performing, but I'm completely shielded by this costume, right? So it's not me. I'm there, but I'm not open and vulnerable to audience criticism because I'm Elmo or I'm Mickey Mouse, right? So I went on and I did that for like 10 years of my life, right? That was like my entire adult life was on tour, performing behind a costume, making people happy, making kids cry. Oh my goodness, I'm Elmo. People. And then it was time to get off the road. And it's like, wow, I don't have any skills except for to be an animated character. And um, so that's when it became a little tougher, right? So because I had to kind of figure out who I was at that point. So even though I got off the road, I was still doing a lot of theater. So I was performing on stage, but not behind a costume. I was still playing a different character, not myself, but not behind like a full like fur costume or whatever. So it was like one step forward and being more vulnerable because I wasn't behind a fur costume. That's what they called it, a fur costume, right? So I did that for a couple of years. And then I decided, you know what? I need to move back home. At the time, I was living in Sarasota. I need to move back home to Boston, which is where I'm from. And so I moved back home to Boston and got a real job waiting tables. And a group of guys came in one night and said, "Hey, you'd be a great real estate agent. You have a great personality. You should get your real estate license and then come work for us." So I did that. And you know, now at this point, I've been a realtor for almost 18 years, and I never felt like this is me. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like this, I just always felt like I'm not, like I could do the job and I did it good and I had some very special clients and I was able to make some money, but I just never felt like this is me, right? So it was about 5 years ago. I joined a coaching program for real estate. This was just pre-COVID. And my coach's name was Krista Mayshore. You might have heard of her. And the coaching program was all about digital marketing. It was about how to utilize digital marketing video and for your real estate business. And so as I dove deep into that program, I realized, wait a second, I don't I don't want to be a realtor. I want to market these houses. I want to help other realtors market their homes. Like this is what I love to do. Going back to the whole like making other people happy because that was like all I've ever done, right? So slowly I transitioned from being a realtor to helping other realtors with their marketing and building funnels and helping them grow their audiences. And so that's sort of how I ended up where I'm at today. Now I realize I don't have to be like out there on stage getting attention. I can be behind the scenes helping other people grow by the framework I use. And that gives me just as much satisfaction because I feel like in my past, I was chasing the spotlight, right? And anyone that really knows me will tell you, like, I'm an okay actress. I got by. I'm not a singer. I got cast in some roles that required me to sing and I was okay. But I was never like, oh, this is your jam, right? And I think the disconnect was that I always felt like I needed to be front and center in the spotlight because that's what I lacked as a kid. But now I realize I can help other people be front and center in the spotlight by doing what I now realize is my gift. My gift is helping other people understand their business, what they're offering, and how to strategize that into a funnel that makes money. And how to help them grow your field. That's what I call it. It's my grow your field method, right? And so, in terms of the podcast, how did that come to be? Because a lot of people have asked me about that too. So, I always thought a podcast would be I had to sit and talk for an hour or whatever. And I would say to myself, how, Anne Marie, are you going to sit here and talk for an hour? What are you going to talk about? What are people going to want to hear? You know? And it wasn't until it's just so funny how things happen. I remember I thought I was having a heart attack one day. I really did. So I made my boyfriend take me to the emergency room. And I'm sitting there in the emergency room. You know, you sit there for hours and hours and hours. And I was flipping through my phone And I'm sure many of you know Dan Henry, somebody I follow, was talking about his colleague or friend, Josh Forty, who was starting a new challenge called the Golden Mike Method. And so I really got into it and I signed up for it. I was just like, what is this? I don't know. And I'm going to tell you that one decision has changed everything for me because I learned that I could use my podcast as my platform and my voice. It did not have to be me sitting here talking to you, although that's what I'm doing now, but did not have to be me sitting here talking for an hour, but yet I could meet and talk to people that are influential and people that I want to meet and hear their journeys. And so I embarked on this coaching program called the Golden Mike Method, and I learned how to find my angle and what I want to know. And so that's how my podcast was born, right? It's called Born or Made. Are we born with an entrepreneurial spirit or does it evolve over time? And I can ask myself that question because I know for a fact that I was born with that entrepreneurial spirit. I remember we used to my friends and my friend Amy and I used to put on shows. We would charge admission. We would put on carnivals in our backyard with little games and we would charge admission. I would try to sell rocks and seashells to the neighbors and I would charge money, right? So those are all things that as a young person need to be fostered. And so that was the point of my podcast is it something that we're born with or does it evolve over time? And so that's where I'm at today. That is my story. I mean, there is so much more to it, but for anybody that's listening, I really just wanted you to get an idea of who I am, and hopefully you'll continue on this journey with me to help everybody grow their fields.